Cricbuzz Chatter at the end of day 2 of this first test match, India versus Sri Lanka. And if India had sort of pushed the door open at the end of day 1, they just push it wide open at the moment, and they're walking through with this test match. Picked up 4 Sri Lankan wickets at the end. Maybe a little unlucky not picking up one, unless, I mean, no ball is not bad luck, so maybe that's fair. 108 for 4 after India had made 574 for 8 declared, and it was all about one man. Jadeja, 175 not out, 3 century partnerships, and got that score at number 7. And then came and bowled the most dramatic first 2 balls, and it seemed like he just carried the pitch with him. And he put one pitch out when he was batting, and then he said, "Yeah, that's enough," and put his other Rajkot special out when he was starting to bowl, and it seemed like a different surface. I know why DK is smiling when I say Rajkot special, but welcome, DK. First thoughts. I mean, you've known Jadeja, you've been alongside him for so long. He came out to bat, and if you didn't know he was batting at number 7, you thought he was a number 4, number 5 batsman. He seemed completely untroubled, and getting to 175 shows that he's getting that form that we've known him in domestic cricket into international cricket.
For a starter, not many people realize that Jadeja's credentials as a batter is phenomenal in Ranji Trophy. He's got 3 triple hundreds, I think, and
I do doubles as well.
And I cannot think of many people who I know personally or have heard of. Forget the English players, because they play in a different, their county setup. They play 18 games and it's very different. But I cannot think of anybody who scored 3 triple hundreds. I know 1. I know people have scored 2. 3 is a unreal number. I mean, when I see Jadeja bat, when I see what he's achieved today, it doesn't come as a surprise at all, Harsha. And just like you said, I would like to think he brought the Rajkot special to bat and the Chennai special to bowl. It is a completely different wicket when he was bowling. I thoroughly enjoyed watching him bat. And, when I just reflect on how the last 3-4 years have gone for him, I mean, I keep saying this, that he's arguably the most, improved cricketer, but I don't think the word improved does justice, if there's a better word than that. He has phenomenally taken off since the 2019 World Cup. He came in as a not sure starter with Kuldeep and Chahal being around, but towards the end, he was unstoppable at that World Cup. And since then, he's not looked back. He's been a different player. He's been a different player in Test, one day, and you keep seeing these memes and all of that that's coming through, and most of it is funny. And the stats pretty much back up what I say. I mean, he's been phenomenal, to say the least. And just his maturity while batting, is one thing trying to score 175. I'm sure they told him that, they might be calling it off at some time, so he needs to come in. But at no point was he hurried. Was he playing exorbitant shots? In a day and age where the lap sweeps, the reverse sweeps, the lap scoops, and all of that is fancy and great to look at and nice to play, he sticks to basic shots. And that's just that seems to be the need of the hour in his life, actually.
Exactly, which is why if you had told me he was a number 4 batsman or number 5 batsman, he wouldn't have looked out of place. He wasn't playing like a sort of lower order batsman. Even when he wanted to get moving, I think he played one reverse sweep, and I think everyone looked up and said, "What happened?" That was how orthodox he was playing. The cover drives were there, the lofted shots were there, the pull shot was there, and 175 from 228 is actually pretty quick. Look what else he has done. I thought he played second fiddle to Rishabh Pant, which is not a problem. Pant was just like an express train going full steam. And then when Ashwin came along, I think it was equal. He sort of took the lead. I like the way he played with Shami, which was the 3rd century partnership, because initially he was shielding him. And then he got enough confidence to give him the strike, to the extent that at one point Shami was charging, wanting to keep strike. The character as well, as you know. Shami is quite a character. He fancies his batting, and that's good for Indian cricket, because the balance when you play in India with Jadeja 7, Ashwin 8, even someone like Shami batting at 10, the balance in Indian conditions is just incredible on this Indian side.
I mean, we keep saying this, India is just too strong a cricketing nation right now to play bilaterals. I don't think there is any country to compete with them in domestic conditions. If they go abroad, obviously the challenges are better. It's better to watch in many ways because they get pushed to a certain extent. But in India, you could call anybody. I think at this point of time, they have that sort of aura around which they seem to operate. When even things go wrong, they just believe it's a matter of time before they, bring things back to the right track, so to say. The last series, which I thought they were pushed a little bit, was the India vs Australia series. A few years ago, that was where I thought there was a bit of competition because they won the first test out of nowhere. India were like, "Wow, this team can do that," and then I mean, since then, I haven't seen anybody coming and competing per se. The teams that are doing well, like New Zealand's and the South Africans, seem to get steamrolled when they come here. So, yeah, India is a hard nation to play in Indian conditions.
Now, Jadeja, yes, I mean, this is a dream game for Jadeja so far. And I'm going to talk about his bowling with you in just a little while. In that partnership, we talked about Rishabh Pant yesterday. Ravichandran Ashwin made 61. His batting has tailed off. Every time I speak to Ashwin, I say, Ashwin, don't forget your batting. You're such a batsman. Because when the ball leaves the bat, it leaves it very pleasantly. It doesn't complain about leaving the bat. It just goes lovely, sweetly off the bat. I thought today he might well have got 100.
I think is definitely the way he was batting. The one thing that I do watch when I see batters play well, and batters who are just probably having a good day, the difference is their striking points. The best of players have a certain point at which they strike a ball, which gets the maximal output with minimum effort. And Ashwin always seems to give you a feeling that, he is doing that consistently with or without his knowledge. The way, like you just explained, the speed at which the ball leaves the bat, I don't think the ball will also complain. It must be like a much of a kiss than somebody who's thudding the ball to a boundary. It just comes, leaves the bat beautifully. And that's been his hallmark. On wickets, even in Ranji Trophy, before he started playing for the country, in conditions which are very alien to a Tamil Nadu team, which would be Dharamshala, Mohali, where the ball tends to seam and swing, but comes on to the bat, he's been a fabulous player. You put him in wickets where it's turning, it's slow. Obviously, he's a very hands player and he doesn't find it easy. But in these kind of conditions, that's why you go to Australia and sometimes you get the feeling that, wow, what a talent Ashwin is when he can bat. And, he got suckered into a pull shot, which I think he would be regretting in many ways because he knows if a Shami can get 20, if you're just tagged along, 100 was there for the asking. But, we all know that he constantly, every time people don't talk about him as an all-rounder, puts his hands up and says, hello, I am there under pressure a lot of time. I've come good with the bat as well. Don't ever forget. And yet another situation, they weren't under any pressure, but just the way he batted was good to watch. And the one remarkable thing about this partnership was always the fact, the running between the wickets. I always notice very closely. One, definitely the fastest in the world when it comes to running between the wickets. The other can't claim the same. And, they have some funny moments. And I did feel Jadeja got angry. The stallion in him came, but he just held it back saying, what, I can't be the horses that I seem to love. I need to be maybe a horse which has lost its speed a bit.
I mean, we both know Ashwin well. I'm sure he won't mind us saying that. I remember saying once that one is an athlete, the other has other skills. I mean, Ashwin has great skills. But, Ashwin is also more relaxed these days. He admits that he cannot be a Jadeja. I mean, some people are just born. You cannot have those fast twitch muscles. But I think given that what Ashwin has achieved with the bat is ridiculous. Let's talk about the bowling a little bit before we go into Sri Lanka. I thought Sri Lanka were not one bowler short. There were two bowler short. I mean, one limped off. But on that track, they only played one spinner. More than that, DK, I got the feeling watching from the ground that the shoulder started to droop a little quickly. And I looked at the score and it wasn't yet 400. You got the impression that India were far ahead of the game long before the score had touched 400. Which is something I just wonder whether Sri Lanka, the record, the fact that they haven't beaten India, won a test match in India, whether they caused them to start to give up very quickly, or whether the extra pace that Kumara had went away. Embuldinia, his length started to change, the confidence started to go away. This Indian side just bats too deep.
Yes, Harsha, I think it's fair to say that Sri Lankan team, when they play against India, is a very scarred unit. Over a period of time, they've obviously played in many a series where they've been steamrolled, pushed to an extent where they find it hard to come back from. And yet another series where I thought, to be very honest, I even called it right here saying that I see a 2-0 and a pretty easy one at that. Just the feel that I get, I don't think the belief is there. That was there. I remember when the Mahela, Muralidhar and Jayavardhan, they were a different kettle of fish. I don't think that is in many ways transferred to these younger bunch of players. They have a lot of battles and a lot of them actually doesn't belong to them. The fights that they have is a lot more behind the scenes and the things that happen, with the Sri Lankan cricket board. But you can see there's a bit of a trickle effect and it's showing on the cricket in many ways. They're not up for a fight. In many ways, their whole I saw the energy levels in the first half an hour, 40 minutes. The moment Rohit and Mayank Agarwal got going, I could see the belief just dropping, the belief dropping. And then you require somebody with a special skill, with a lot of self-belief, like the Shane Warnes of the world, to take the game single-handedly if you want to make a difference. And like that, I don't think there is anybody. The Embuldenia started again well yesterday, but today I thought it was not a patch of what he bowled yesterday. I expected a lot more on a turning wicket with the obviously lesser known batters, so to say, batting. He didn't give the feel that he wanted to be the guy to pick up 6 or 5. He was just there. He'll come and put the ball in the right spot. If it happens, sort of an attitude. You can't fault them. I think at the end of the day, cricket is a very skill-based game, and at this point of time, India is a far more skilled team, so to say.
Yeah, and you saw that with the bowling, because you start with Bumrah and Shami. I thought Shami's second spell, he took them off pretty quickly. Shami's second spell was 5 overs, 5. He bowled beautifully. It looked like taking a wicket. Bumrah bowled a magnificent spell, and Bumrah is going to be sitting in that room kicking himself, because he bowled a spell where he would easily have taken 3 wickets in that spell. As it turned out, he did take 2, but the saga of Bumrah and the no ball is a long one. I think he's got to worry a little bit about that. But that second spell that Bumrah bowled just showed you that if you can think, okay, I've withstood Ashwin's first spell, I've withstood Jadeja's spell. I mean, there was a wicket in each of those. Then Bumrah comes back to bowl that spell. But let's talk about Ashwin and Jadeja, because the moment Ashwin came on to bowl, you could see there was a bit of wait and see for the first 2 or 3 overs. See, my fingers are also going like that when I'm talking about it. And Ashwin now discovered what is the way to bowl on this track. He became a different bowler. And Jadeja, we're all stalking DK. Deep was there, Karthik was there, saying, see what happens when Jadeja comes on to bowl, and suddenly, zoop, the first couple of balls, what happened there? The extra speed, he's just a different bowler.
Just the speed. And Harsha, this game is about confidence, Harsha, and I don't think anybody is going to be more confident than Jadeja at the moment. The score, obviously we can see the bowling and the scorecard reflects a lot, but it doesn't reflect Jadeja's confidence. I think at the moment he is bowling in such a way that a 5-4 is round the corner, because just the way the ball is coming out of his hand with the kind of revs that it is giving, he's going to cause not only the right-handers but the left-handers as well as the game rolls on, which I don't think will be for too long. But if the rough is created, and there is a bit of a rough, but the moment it's slightly more, I think it's going to give a lot of trouble, because the left-handers will find it hard to play defense at the speed at which he bowls with the amount of revs that he gives. He's got a very easy, simple action to the crease with very minimal body effort, but everything that he does is at the point of release, and that's what's making him special. And you can see his bowling again is something that is confidence based, like most things in sport, and he is at this point of time as we speak as confident as he's ever been over a period of time, and that is reflecting in his bowling. For Ashwin, whereas it is a question of how he feels on the day, the wicket, and where he wants to do and how he wants to do things. For Jadeja, it's just pure confidence. And at this point of time, I doubt there are many more confident cricketers than Jadeja playing the sport per se.
Which brings us at the right time to put DK in the hot spot. It was an interesting declaration, DK. You got enough runs. The team had got enough runs, 570 runs. The timing on 2 counts I wanted to ask you. One is, there's a batsman 175 not out. At what point does the team say, can I give him a little more time to get to 200? I don't know if he's ever going to get a chance to get to 200 again. Or do you say, oh, hang on, but that will mean using up at least another half an hour, and that is taking more time out of the game? That's one thing I want to ask you. The second is, it came so close to tea that in the changeover, the batsman got 20 minutes instead of 10 in the changeover, the openers to come. So what did you make of the timing of the declaration?
Personally, I think when a decision like that is taken on a team front, you always feel that it's fine, unless you're on 195, 196. When you're 175, it's a different one altogether. Whereas if you're 195, 196, then you think twice. Other than that, I don't think as a captain or as a coach, you're thinking too much about individual glory at that point of time. You're trying to think, how much time do we have? How many wickets do we want to pick? How much time do we want to give ourselves on that given?
Have you been in that situation yourself on either side of the declaration, having to make it, or suddenly looking up and saying, oops, what has the captain done?
Yeah, twice in fact. Once I was on 174 and they declared no problems. Another one I was 183. And, obviously Ranji Trophy, slightly shorter game, and we had to declare, and it happened, and that was the end. So these things happen. As I personally feel at this point of time, maybe you feel a little hard done by, but when you just roll back the years and turn around and see, two things always you remember: one, the fact that you made a contribution, and two, did you win that game or not? That makes a massive difference. Jadeja will go home a lot more happy and a peaceful man if India go on to win that match comfortably, which likely looks the case. And the fact that he needs to play a pretty big role for that to happen, just I think makes the case much easier for him. But if you're looking at from Jadeja's shoes, he is somebody right now, he's so confident. You can see the way he's pacing his inning. And more importantly, why this decision will be okay with the Jadeja for me mainly is because what they did in the second T20, they said, hey, Jadeja, we feel you're really special. Go in and bat at 4. We want you to go in. We know what the talent you have. Not many people have done that before. So when Rahul Dravid and Rohit Sharma have shown that kind of confidence, he's not going to turn back and say, you know what, I just feel hard done by that you've declared at this stage. He's going to be smiling and saying, these guys have my back. And that's most important. The coach, captain and player camaraderie, those kind of moments in the past where you've backed a player, where you've shown the faith, will obviously come back now, because Jadeja for sure is not going to kick up a storm here. He'll be like, fine, I know that they are there for me and they'll take care of me. And that is most important. When you're playing international sport, a lot of the times a pat on the back is not necessary. A shoulder on the back is far more necessary. And I think these two people at this point of time, as we would know personally, tend to go down that route a lot more. And hence I feel there would be no problem. Second thing, even though they declared at T, I think it was early T in many ways. So what happens is you give 20 minutes, which I personally am not a big fan of. And a lot of, if I have to say, Khadus Mumbai coaches that I have been around don't like it. They only want to give 10 minutes. They say, hey, see, though the opponent is down and dusted, let's push them to them. Let's kick them down and make it even harder for them. I have seen instances where Tamil Nadu have played 1 over after T, 3 balls after T and declared just to make sure it is 10 minutes. So that is one interesting thought. But that is only if you're, in many ways, if you're behind the game so much or you need to put pressure. I don't think there's any pressure for them. They're looking, okay, let's take 20 minutes and let's go in fresh. We have 30 overs. Let's do the best they can. So that's where that thought must have come from. Do you agree, Harsha, about the 20 minutes and the 10 minutes issue?
I didn't mind the declaration with Jadeja on 175. I mean, he'd given him time to come till 175, which was a significant thing. So I didn't worry about that. I just thought 10 minutes because I could see the shoulders. Sri Lanka are a bit like that. And you've been in that situation sometimes, which you never want to be as a fielding side, where everybody's waiting for a declaration. And at that situation, you're so low, and then suddenly the declaration comes 10 minutes. I mean, you've also opened in your life. You know that it's about a minute and a half till you go off the field. Then you want a shower, maybe quick 30-second shower. Then you've got to change. You literally got 2-3 minutes before you come out to bat again. So I would have liked to have given 10 minutes. Yeah, there it is.
Absolutely. All right, Harsha, now that you've put me on the hot spot, I think it's important that we move in the forward. So it's time for fast forward. Okay. 2 questions, Harsha. First thing, do you see this droopy Sri Lankan team in many ways coming back in this test match? And the second one, do you think India will enforce the follow-on tomorrow?
Okay, I'll answer one of those, and I'll push the one of those back to you to get your opinion as well. I think when a team is down, the big players have to stand up and say, right, come follow me. I think Dimuth Karunaratne was that player, or Angelo Matthews was that player. Matthews may be a little unlucky, two umpires calls on one LBW decision, but he was the one person who was looking okay. I think 108 for 4. Actually, they're lucky to be 4 down. Nissanka was out on a no ball. He's been very, very scratchy. He's been their brightest young player, but he's looked very scratchy. For them to challenge the not giving the follow-on, I think if they get bowled out by lunch, let's say by lunch if they get bowled out, because there's Dickwella next, and then it's 4 bowlers. Suranga Lakmal average is 10 point whatever. So if they get bowled out by lunch, I won't be surprised if Rohit Sharma says go on. I don't see Sri Lanka coming back into this game, sadly. Over the years, I've admired a lot of their players, but I don't think in this side there is someone who's going to fight his way through and say, come on, guys, we are going to fight our way back. So I don't see Sri Lanka coming back in this game. My own view is, if you get bowled out by lunch, maybe you can do a follow-on. But what do you think? Game, actually. So
there's a lot of time in this game, Harsha. I was just thinking, only 2 people that I can think of. Why would you bat second? There are only 2 reasons. One, You want to give the fast bowlers a break, or rather bowlers a break? Two, do you want to give the young boys, Shreyas Iyer and one Hanuma Vihari in this? Are you going to give them another opportunity to bat? These are the only two questions. But if they score less than 180, then you have another 360 runs to play with, which is a lot, which would mean that, if you decide to bowl and you get lucky, there's a chance you could finish it tomorrow. Or worst case scenario, you could just end up bowling another session the next day. So the question is whether the fast bowlers are saying, you know what, I'm up for it. That is the only question here, because it is not going to be a case of the spinners are going to say they're too tired. Each one has bowled 9 and 10. Oh, it's not a big deal at all. It's only a question of whether the fast bowlers are saying we have a spell every session in us, or we want to break. These are the only two questions. I feel personally that they'd go for the kill and they'd go for the follow on. That's what I think, because I don't think the fast bowlers are going to complain, because they know that they'd rather have 2 days of rest post that than have another 60 overs of rest in between. That's what I feel.
Right, so there you are. It's looking very much India's game at the moment. The difference lead is 466. You're not even looking at that. It's just a question of how long Sri Lanka continue this innings and whether they're two bright young players, Nisanka and Asalanka, both very gifted players. Nisanka's got a first-class average of 60, 14 first-class hundreds, but he really struggled. The question is how long can they bat on, but India looking way ahead in this game. Now, this game was played as a lot of you visit Cricbuzz would have realized in the kind of tributes that have been posted there. One of the greatest tragedies to befall our game. Shane Warne was just 52 years old, and it's very, very sad for our game. Different people have said what they had to, and I just wonder, DK, if you had memories, because I remember I saw your tweet. We finished our program yesterday, and you had a flight to catch. By the time you landed, you would have got the news. It was staggering. I mean, here's a man who's so full of life at 50, on the prime of your life in many ways today. So you had any anecdotes, any experiences?
Harsha, for the start, the person before this that I can think of that passed away and left a bit of a void was SP Balasubramaniam for me. I think he was somebody who was very special. Not that I knew him personally or anything, just his voice was very, very special to me. And I've listened to a lot of songs. I got a similar feeling as soon as I saw Shane Warne and the news that followed. For a start, I just tweeted immediately out of reflex saying, no, it can't be true because there's a lot of fake news out there. And then after 10 minutes, I did my research and found out it was absolutely true. And immediately a sort of void happened, Harsha. For a start in my life, I should tell you this. I played, I basically started cricket in Chennai, but I went to Kuwait and I did my skills there, and they said you should go back to India and practice. So when I came to India, I was actually a batsman who could bowl leg spin. And what was my action? Shane Warne. I came for 3 months. I obviously joined a new school, and we were having coaching sessions in the morning, and I was bowling typical Shane Warne action. I used to walk up and just do that. But one day the coach came and said, no, you need to run up to the crease. You need to obviously, to get more revs on the ball, you need to get more into the bowling stride. Not everybody can be a Shane Warne. And that was the last day I bowled, and I became a wicket keeper after that. And that's where Shane Warne and my relationship in many ways with Shane Warne started there, because I always emulated him. I enjoyed watching him bowl, and there is something special about certain talented people, and he was one such colorful character for all the things that he achieved on the field. I was very, very privileged to have played against him. I remember against Rajasthan in a match, I just flicked. I got caught out in Centurion, not in a place where it turned much. He just set the field in such a way. He said he wanted me to play in the leg side, and I exactly fell for the trap. I flicked the ball, got caught in bowl. He gave me a kiss and said, "Thank you, bye-bye." I'll again never forget that as well. So these moments just stayed with me for a long, long time. He's the best leg spinner till today that I have played by a distance, and I only played him on white ball cricket. And then the I was lucky enough to go and work in England, and he was there on board as well. And I spent some lovely moments with him. Went for a meal, and terrific human being. I mean, very colorful, very strongly opinionated, and very, very interesting personality, if I have to say it in a very light manner. But when I heard this news, there was a bit of immediately a sort of sadness hit me, and doesn't happen very often, I've noticed, but this was one such. I think he's left a mark in all our lives, and whenever you remember Shane Warne, there are so many nice things to remember him by. I feel for the family, and I just wish him wherever he goes, I think he'll light up that place. He's that sort of personality for sure. I have a feeling he's one of those cricketers that you must have spent more time with, Harsha, than I would have. I'm sure there must have been some great moments together.
Lots. He loved conversations. Like you, I'm a great lover of leg spin bowling. I bowled it at school and college level, and I discovered how difficult it was. When you play at certain level, you discover how difficult it is because you can't do it anymore. So I used to go leg breaks, but the leg breaks used to hit the deck and fall asleep before they reach the batsman. And I found if you can get nip off the track, what a bowler you are. And so when I first saw Shane Warne, I saw that Sydney Test where he made his debut. And then in Sri Lanka, he did well. By the time he went to England, he was hypnotic. I would see Shane Warne and I would fall in love with the drift, TK. The drift that took the ball to the leg stump and turned back and hit off. For someone like me, it was miracle. It was like in the Hindi movies, the heroes beating up 10 villains. It was as impossible as that. So I fell in love with it, then got to know him very well. I think Bharat Sundaresan makes a very interesting point on Cricbuzz. He said, even if you didn't know him, you thought you had lost someone you know. And that was the effect that he had on you. I had so many conversations. The one thing I remember more than anything else is in the way he played his cricket, he would always say, how can we win from here? Whatever the situation, how can I win from here? And when you're doing commentary with him, he'd get upset sometimes if the field was defensive. He said, but how can you get a wicket? Because the objective of playing the game and bowling is to get a wicket. So those are a couple of things that he was so aggressive. He said, and he was so accurate. Sometimes people think leg spin is a difficult art. What Shane Warne did was he told us, hang on, it's damn tough. He was so accurate. That was the difference between him and God, I think of Shane Warne and I start forgetting names. The other leggy from Australia, man.
Stuart McGill.
Stuart McGill. That was the difference. Just the accuracy. But yeah, I knew him very well, and I was a little emotional when I did that tribute last evening. But I think Bharat's point is well made that you just feel you missed somebody you know. And yeah, he's a great player. 52 years old. He had so much to give to the game.
In today's millennial language, I think we all know somebody's made a mark in their life and in the world. If in a complete non-cricketing background in a WhatsApp group, if people put out messages saying this is what has happened, and that was what happened in a few of the groups where I've never spoken cricket, never seen cricket being spoken, if that came as one of the news, then you know the man has left a massive mark in the world of sport, and he will retire. I mean, rather, he will move on as the legends of the game and be compared to the greatest of the great. And I think we've all been lucky in a way that we've been able to spend some time. And like you said, I think we all, at least for a few moments, thought about him and realized what a great impact he's had and what a lot of happiness that he brought in terms of the way he fought. And we could go on and on. But for the moment, I just wish his family all the best to somehow find a way to deal with this hard situation.
Yeah, twinkle in his eye when he was talking about his kids. So yeah, there you go. To the family of Shane Warne, the children, his parents around. There's nothing sadder as a parent than to lose your child. So we all our condolences with the family, and we will be back with you again tomorrow evening. We'll see how far this game has moved on. It could move very quickly on day 3. There's a little puff of dust. It's a good track. It's not that the ball is exploding off the turf, but it is certainly starting to do a little bit. And Sri Lanka trailing by 466. They've got to do something completely outrageous from here to stay in the game. So there you are. Thank you very much to DK. It was always great fun to chat with, and we'll be back with you tomorrow at 5:30 after the day's play.